2, 1, go.
Charles Kayitaba, I appreciate you coming to the NS podcast. Young entrepreneur, lender, financial guru. I've seen you, really make some big moves in the last little while. So I'm excited to sit down with you and talk about your story, talk about your background, and talk a little bit about finance.
No, I appreciate it. I think this is the first time everyone has referred to me as a financial guru, but I'll take it. I'll take the blessing, man, for sure.
No, and you know what? I've learned a lot from you on the finance side, and I feel like you're always spitting that knowledge when it comes to, finances,
Right.
and I appreciate that.
No, and again, I appreciate you. I appreciate the hospitality. Ever since we officially met probably just a year ago around this time,
Yeah.
at the EXP boat cruise up in Kingston.
Yep.
Right? Even though we always tapped in over Instagram, but I think that was the first time we actually got a chance to sit down and chop it up and get to know one another. Ever since then, you've always been warm, welcoming, super hospitable. So I appreciate that 1,000%. And hopefully, whoever's part of the EXP family and whoever's tuning in at the NS podcast, the biggest podcast in Canada, right?
Yeah, bro.
Hope we can drop some gems and then they can take something home with them.
That's it, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Listen, let's talk about you and your origin story. Just, give people a little bit of background. Tell me something interesting in your life that has happened kind of starting from day one.
No, for sure. I would probably just say humble beginnings, to be honest with you. So born in the Congo, that's where I was born, in the Congo during the genocidal period, but came to Canada when I was very, very young. I was like 1 or 2 years old. So it's not like I have a strong recollection of things back home, right? But nonetheless, I'm the youngest of 4, but always been really a workhorse, to be honest with you. Hard work has always been something that was taught by my mom at a very young age, and doing more, less, right? So not having the most, let's call it resources to work with, but whenever you're born in an environment like that, you don't think of, you don't know that maybe you're not financially stable, your family's not financially stable until you grow up and really probably into your late teens or early 20s, and you look back like, oh wow, so that's why I didn't have this, or that's why I didn't have that, right? And you learn to make do without, and so you're forced to be creative, think outside the box. That way you can still maintain some sort of normalcy within your friendships and your friend groups at school and high school and things like that, right? So kind of just taking that into the business world, right? Understanding you don't need $100,000 to start a successful career or something like that, right? You have enough if you just are willing to be creative and think outside the box, right? And then it was a 180. I wasn't in finance or mortgages or real estate. I went to Brock University. Kinesiology is what I studied.
Okay.
All right. Once I realized I wasn't going to go to the NBA or be the next big man out of Niagara, right? Height, one, for height reasons, and second, just it wasn't going to happen, right? Yeah. I started working right off the bat, first year university, put myself through university. I'm like, cool, if I can't be an NBA player, what's one thing I can do to stay around sports and athletics? Yeah. So I'm just going to be not a physiotherapist, an athletic therapist, excuse me. Yeah. Hopefully for like the NBA or maybe an MLS team, because I always wanted to be around sports and I like the sciences. So graduated from Brock University, and then I was fortunate enough to get into a postgrad program in athletic therapy at Sheridan College in Brampton. So that's what brought me to Mississauga area, where I am now, right?
Got it.
Because I was raised in St. Catharines, was there my whole life. So I got into that postgrad program. It was very competitive, probably the #1 school across Canada for athletic therapy. You had everyone there from the athletic therapists from the Argos, the Raptors, Toronto FC, you name it. The top athletic therapists that have come out of Canada came from Sheridan College. So I was fortunate enough to get in. My sister was already living in Mississauga, so I moved in with my sister. Yeah. And then about 6 months into the school term, first year, it wasn't for me. It didn't make any sense, if I'm being honest with you. I'm thinking, man, like, now that I'm in it and I'm practicing and I'm on the field, I'm getting real life experience. Yeah. It was a 4-year post-grad program. And at the end of the 4 years, they're telling you like, hey, you're not even guaranteed a job. Yeah. You're probably doing contract work for certain teams and stuff like that. And most likely it's not even enough. If you really want to get some of those top positions in sport club teams at the pro level, you usually have to parlay that with a physiotherapist degree, or you have to be also a chiropractor or something like that.
Got you. So it didn't work out.
It didn't work out. So I'm like, for me, and I've always been, I look back at it now, I didn't realize it in the moment, but for my age group, I always had money because I was always working.
Yeah. Tell me about that. Tell me, like, You mentioned you always were able to do something with nothing and be creative. Do you
Yeah.
have like an example of how you were able to do that maybe in the younger days?
For sure. So, okay, one thing is I never had the opportunity, especially playing basketball, throughout putting myself through like playing basketball.
Did you have a scholarship?
No scholarship.
okay.
So let's say in elementary, I played for the St. Catherine's Rebels.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I was playing high level at that time. It's called travel basketball, like select basketball, or AAU is now.
Yeah.
Right? So you're practicing at least 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah.
All right? Plus tournaments on weekends.
Okay.
You're putting wear and tear on your shoes and whatnot. Like most people are going through at least 3 to 4 pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
Right? Naturally, I was in a position I couldn't afford that many shoes. My mom could not afford to put that many shoes on my feet in a school year, right?
Yeah.
So after every practice, I take out the soles, right?
Yeah.
Let them air dry, put the fabric softener, like the dry cleaner fabric softener, and I'd wash them after every practice. That's way they stay clean, right? To make them last, right?
see.
Just stuff like that, right? I would do tons and tons and tons of fundraising, car washes, stuff like that on my own, just so I can put myself, through sports, because naturally you're traveling, hotels, things like that, right?
That's what I was saying. When you say you put yourself through the college,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Like,
Oh, okay. So that was elementary school.
Yeah.
I'm not even in college. In elementary school, I'm washing cars for money,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And stuff like that, and doing other grant programs like Canadian Tire, doing my own research in terms of how can I get grants and things like that to pay for sports. So Canadian Tire, I don't know if they still do it, but they have a jumpstart program
Yeah.
where if you are under a certain age, you want to play sports, they'll allocate I think like $400 or $500 to that, right? So I'm grade 6, grade 7 at the time. I'm doing this research like
So
grant.
you were always looking for the finances.
Correct.
You're always looking for where the finances.
I was always looking for where the money is. Yeah.
Where the money's at.
Where the
so I
money
can-
is. Yeah.
I can get a piece and
Right.
and build something.
Exactly. I guess
Invest in myself, right?
I didn't really think about it like that,
it.
but I guess so. Let's say fast forward to university, right? So I'm bilingual. I speak French. My sister at the time.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Let's do a little French. Keep going in French.
Yeah?
Just like
Tu veux que je dise quoi en français? On peut parler en français aussi. Alors, quand j'étais en mon premier semestre de l'université, je commençais à travailler à plein temps.
All right, let's get it.
Yeah, so once it was actually my sister who sat me down.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every hooper goes through this struggle where they're like, oh, I'm going to try to go pro. But no one ever tells them, brother, you're not good enough. So my come to realize moment was my sister, Carol. God bless her soul. She pretty much sat me down like, hey, bud, you're not going pro. You're not good enough.
Yeah.
So focus your attention on school and you're going to have to work.
Yeah.
It was a fight. It was a struggle because all my life I just wanted to be a professional basketball player. But that was first university. Lucky enough, my sister's always been pretty well advanced ahead of her class because she just took on a lot of responsibilities at a young age. And so she got me into a role at Canadian Tire Financial Services. It's like a call center, right? For like the Canadian Tire credit cards and things like that. And she got me in the bilingual department. So in first university, so this was probably 2013. Yes, 2013. I was making $18, $19 an hour. Which is pretty good money back then for someone who's only, you go to university at 16, 17, right? So I'm like, okay. So they worked around my school schedule. I was working 20 hours a week during school. And then in the summers, I was working full time. So I was clocking in easy, like $1,500, $2,000 bi-weekly. And that was, at that point in time, that's more than enough to sustain yourself as a university student. And then from there, I would just save and actually help out at home. So I took on a larger responsibility at home once I hit university and helping pay bills and things like that. Because single mom household. And then that was my university story. And then once I hit really like third year and I made a decision I wanted to become an athletic therapist, that work schedule wouldn't work because sports teams in the summers, you're training with the team, and during the school year, you're constantly on the road, doing the massage, you're doing all of the athletic modalities, post-practices, pre-practices, right? It's almost a full-time job in a sense. So this was my summer where I really learned to grind, where I worked as a pool boy in the summertime. So it was like Bolt pools in St. Catherine's from essentially 8:30 a.m. to 4:30, right? And then I would go to the gym from 5 to 7, and then I'd work at Good Life and do their graveyard shift from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I did that for 2 back-to-back summers,
Jeez.
right? because I need to save up enough money so I can actually pursue athletic therapy during the school. 'Cause I couldn't work during the school year.
Yeah.
Right. So that was 18, 19 years. No, 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
Right. I was doing that, and then
You really put yourself through the education system.
and then you learn something. You learn that my biggest lesson from that was you have to be able to sacrifice without seeing the fruits of your labor. So in the summertime, I was just saving money away, really couldn't hang out with my friends. I missed out on a lot of opportunity. But it paid off because during the school year, I didn't have to work. I was good. I was a little more relaxed. I can just focus on getting my education, studying, etc., and committing full-time to athletic therapy.
Yeah.
Right? So it was almost a whole summer of grinding, not doing anything. But the fruits of my labor paid off because I had enough money to not only still help out at home, pay my own bills, pay bills at the house, and pay for my tuition and things like that, right?
So everything seems like it kind of led its way to a career in finance.
For sure. So let's fast forward a little bit. How I actually got into finance now. Once I realized I wasn't no longer working at, I didn't want to do athletic therapy.
Yeah.
All right. Funny enough, one of the basketball players that I met named Nathaniel Garner, he was probably my first real mentor. He played basketball at Brock. All right. I saw him about a couple years later when I was working athletic therapy. He was working some sort of senior level position, I believe, at one of the insurance companies, whether it be Sun Life, Manulife, downtown. And he was telling me he was retiring. He was barely 25 at the time from corporate. He's like, I'm done. In my head, I'm thinking, something's not making sense here. How are you retiring at 25, 26 years old? He's like, I have enough rental properties where I feel comfortable enough off the cash flow I can live off of, right? To go full time into real estate. I'm like, I'm hustling backwards. This doesn't make any sense. And at this time I'm working at Orange Theory Fitness right there in Mississauga.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, I'm hustling backwards. That doesn't make any sense. I'm 6, 7, 8, 10 hours a day here, and I'm not even close, right? So you have to put and then that's where he started putting me on game and teaching me about growing a portfolio. So a couple things happened at the same time there. I was 21, 22 years old, working full-time at Orange Theory Fitness, and then they promoted me to head fitness manager for a location. So the downtown Mississauga location, I was managing the coaches, the front end staff, memberships, growing studios, etc. Yeah. All right. So I was taking all my money at that time, and then I was investing with Nate in some of his own personal projects. So that's why I started learning about private lending. Going out and underwriting real estate deals, multi-unit specifically. Right. I was doing this. He was just coaching me. He would take me out to some of his projects and go see his projects, go see his flips, and I would run the numbers for him. So that's when I really started catching, an understanding of real estate and having your money work for you.
So without Nate, you wouldn't be where you're at.
Oh, 100%. No way.
You need that mentor.
You need the mentor.
Somebody to show you the road.
Right? Actually, you know what? Maybe I wouldn't say that I would have never gotten, because I do believe in the power of the universe, and they're going to give you signs and push you in a direction. So maybe not Nate, maybe someone else down the line, right? Especially if you don't listen to those signs.
Maybe not.
Or maybe not. That's true. Maybe not.
Tough, man. A lot of people are lost and they don't have that guidance, and they'll just keep grinding at Orange Theory and putting in the hours for
for
years,
sure.
Right?
No, you're right.
So
you're right.
It's good. That's something that I'm really passionate about, is making sure that people have access to the information, because a lot of people don't, right?
Yeah.
And it's they just get sucked in, and you just kind of get trapped in this kind of work for money situation, trading time for money, and you can kind of go through your whole life for that. So that was really a big moment, I guess.
No, 100%, because at 22, I then get promoted to, I'm now overseeing 2 studios.
Yeah.
And now this is where my business acumen started kicking in, because now I'm managing a team. I have about 10 coaches under me. I'm managing people a lot older than me, right? So now I'm learning how to manage people. I'm learning about the back end in terms of hitting numbers and targets for studios, right? The cost that it takes to run a studio, how many memberships we need to sign up every month. So now my business acumen is starting to gear up with real tangible working experience. Don't come from an MBA background or a business background or anything like that. I didn't take that at university, right? But it's cool. I'm getting this live experience, and then I'm taking all that money and I'm investing with Nate.
Beautiful.
Right?
That's a beautiful transition. Tell me about your thoughts right now, kind of on the Canadian economy, on Canadian real estate. Where do you think things are heading right now? I know there's a lot of different factors to it, but what's your take on it?
Yeah. Do you know what? it's very hard to listen to all of the headlines and things like that, right? Because you feel like it switches every month. Every time there's a Bank of Canada announcement,
You don't know who to listen to. Because
And
everybody's got their own
their own
agenda.
their own agenda
and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
and
But
things like
you know,
that.
I find that like a mortgage lender, being there, seeing the files, seeing the people, talking
Correct.
to people with, you know, that
What's-
are out there and on the streets, kind of, you know, trying to figure their financial situation out. You probably have a good outlook.
No,
So,
1,000%. At the end of the day, I like to look at the major economic markers. So I'm always looking at either inflation, all right? I'm looking at the employment numbers, all right? And also I'm looking at consumer debt, right? Because these are the things that are ultimately going to impact someone's ability to buy or refinance a home, right? And all three of those numbers don't look good, all right? Inflation from the last target meeting went up, all right, just a tad, all right? Employment numbers still aren't looking great. And then according to Equifax, this report just came out last year, a few weeks back, consumer debt, personal debt is at an all-time high. So it means that the job market is not strong. People are still leveraging and over-leveraging themselves, all right? Which ultimately impacts their ability to then spend in the economy. And if people aren't spending, well then the economy is not as,
how's the inflation going up then? It's confusing.
right?
Yeah, how's the inflation going up? It's like contradicting.
Right, but inflation has so many different markers, right?
right,
In
yeah.
terms of you're looking at the cost of like the mortgage, right? That goes into inflation. And they're also looking at the cost of food and different products in the market that are all increasing due to the holdup with the supply chain, right?
Yeah.
So and interest rates are still high, so people aren't borrowing from the banks.
Yeah.
You know, so when you put all that together, it's not an economy that's moving forward and thriving where there's new products, people are out spending, people are in affordable situations. The exact opposite. I find that people cannot afford a lot of the things. People are over.
Well, if you look at what you're saying the jobs are down, debt is high, so like people are struggling financially, and then inflation is still kind of going up, so prices are going up. So it's like two things working against each other, and at the end of the day, it's really bad for the end user.
For sure. So consumer debt going up just simply means people are leveraging lines of credits and credit cards.
Yeah.
Right? The cost of goods can still go up because we're not bringing new goods to market, right? So still a limited resource. So inflation can still go up. And on top of that, we decreased the overnight, obviously American didn't, so that hurts our Canadian dollar.
Yeah.
Thus, again, if our dollar is then weakened, then the cost of goods
Yeah.
further increase inflation back up. Now, I don't like to call myself an expert around these things or anything like that, but I can say honestly, in looking at files and the files that come across our desk, most of the time, not most of the time, more than the majority of files now, you're not getting your prototypical A client, right? The first time home buyers are not as present as they once were, especially in the peak of COVID. And your A clients are now being pushed to B clients, B clients being the alternative lenders, and then your B clients are now being pushed to private because of the rates, right? Which is, again, it's kind of affecting, again, the whole real estate community as a whole. And then even yourself, you can probably speak a little bit more on the lack of building that's going on as well, and all the constraints that go on there with builders and exuberant charges on DC facilities and things like that that are really holding back builders from actually going out and building. Red tape, cost to borrow, cost of material, and things of that nature, right? So we're being hit on both sides.
Yeah. Are you seeing a lot of people struggling at every level, like the guys that are like, you know, maybe buying their primary residence and like maybe an investor that's kind of has a few properties, and then like I know a lot of the builders are going into receivership and all that. So are you seeing kind of different, similar markers on all kind of levels?
All levels, because we all get affected when the price of money is increased.
Yeah.
Right? When you're borrowing debt, and that's being affected across everyone from builders borrowing millions of dollars in private money to get their developments across the finish line, right? They're paying an extra 4 or 5% on that money. On top of that, the cost of material has gone up, the cost of labor has gone up, etc. Down to the first-time home buyer, right? Who, you know, unfortunately, their employment income has not increased as much as house prices, or even as quickly as the cost of debt again, which goes back into their debt servicing guidelines and how you qualify. So that's where you're seeing more co-signers from mom and dad. So it's not uncommon to see mom, dad, even grandma on the application, right? For whoever.
Those are the kind of files you're looking.
1,000%.
Every file is pretty creative.
Yeah, and there needs to be a level of outside the box thinking, right? Because again, someone comes out of the university, they get their first salary job, right? Starting salary, I'd probably say probably around anywhere between 50 to 70K, which I think is relatively fair. Anything above that is a pretty good starting salary, if you ask me, right? But then on top of that, most people, what do they do when they get out? They want to go out and finance a car. That's the first thing. Canadian car to get to and from work. Let's call that to $200, $300, $400 a month, which is $400 a month actually more. I would say on the conservative side. That's probably where I would say our first car would be, right? Just that alone, right? Every $400, $500 car payment that you make is almost $100,000 off of a pre-approval on an application, right?
I think that's something really important, like just exactly what you said, because I feel like young people don't understand the value of everything from like a Netflix subscription, which may not be a big factor, but like, like every $100 a month that you are obligated to pay has a big, number behind it in terms of what that means from a financing perspective.
From a mortgage approval, 1,000%.
So $400 a month, you're saying is 100.
Almost, at today's interest, it'll give or take anywhere between 80 to 100 grand off of a mortgage approval.
Yeah. So instead of having a 400 a month liability, which, so a lot of times it's, you may be even looking at like a 400 a month car versus an 800 a month car, trying to, go fancy with it.
Correct.
And that difference could
literally save you, can add an extra 150.
It's a nice little Sault Ste. Marie starter,
Yeah. But even add an extra 150, 200K, especially if you're thinking about like an $800, like let's say a luxury car, right? Yeah. You're losing 150K to 200K off your mortgage pre-approval right there and then. Yeah. Before you even look at income. So that's the difference between a $600,000, let's say 2+2 right now in Mississauga, to maybe a semi now, because you can actually qualify for 750 or 800,000. Yeah. Now think what that does from an equity standpoint, equity appreciation over the years, if you're able to get the townhome in comparison to the condo.
Or another example is if you're gonna get a townhome or a condo, maybe now you can look at a duplex, right? And
Bingo.
That's like a that's a game changer.
For sure.
How, where you're gonna be in the trajectory of your life as you move forward, right? In terms of being able to. So if you think about it, instead of buying an $800 a month lease, you go with a $400 lease. You get a duplex instead of a condo. Yeah. That's gonna change your life.
Correct.
Just that, right? So it's like things like that. People, I think, really need to be considerate about. And it's like I feel like a lot of times you just don't know, right? You just you want to go fancy. You want to kind of take advantage of the opportunity. But I think, the way you've kind of built your career and your come up in terms of, putting that money away and really being smart with your finances, and then as quickly as possible putting that into some assets and kind of looking at how you can board a portfolio. For sure. And it goes back to being, you want to think big picture, right? If within the next 2 to 3 years, you want to buy a home, right? So make sure you sit down with someone well before, like, what does that process even look like, right? And get an idea, because then you're not going to make certain decisions that could hurt that or delay that, right? And that's all. I think sometimes we can just be short-sighted, and it's human nature, right? We can just be a little bit short-sighted and not realizing, the actions, what you do today ultimately does affect what's going to happen to you in a year or 2 years from now, or where you are today as a result of the actions that you took 6 months ago. People don't understand, like, if you look at it from a decade perspective, the incremental decisions you make, the small decisions, especially early on, could just change the game. Like, it could basically mean being able to build a portfolio or just being stuck. 1,000%. And then from there, you're, so I think it's, our obligation to really kick this knowledge more and really help people see the big picture and understand, the opportunities. Because I feel like right now we're going through a situation where it's either you're on this side or you're on this side in terms of the wealth perspective, right? It's either you're going to it's going to be harder and more difficult on the side of building wealth and buying real estate and all that. And then you're going to, and then this side, the people that have invested in real estate have some equity now are going to be able to accumulate more. Correct. They're just going to grow, right? So the division is going to grow significantly, and I think the middle class is going to get a little smaller with everything that's going on. 1,000%. You already see it. Yeah. You're already seeing it, man. People who bought real estate early, right now they're making out like bandits, right? Who aren't over leveraged. Yeah. Right? But again, it's tough because now I think house prices are at a point where it's very tough for people to get in. And obviously, even from a rental perspective, with the long-term tenant board and some of the red tape and tenants and things of that nature, investing in real estate, you're seeing a lot of the savvy investors now kind of look elsewhere at either other provinces and even outside of the country just in totality, right? Because they just don't see the
the same security for investors or to protect the investors as it is on the other side.
Yeah.
All right?
No,
Whichever side you fall
Yeah.
you fall in on.
That's it. What do you think is gonna happen with kind of the Canadian economy, Canadian real estate? When do you think the debt levels are gonna go down? When do you think the interest rates are gonna become more reasonable? When do you think it's kind of get back to some level of normalcy in sort of the financial situation of people here in Ontario and Canada?
Yeah, like I'm gonna speak for myself on this one again because there's so many different sources out there, right? That I personally, even if we saw the quarter point come down at the previous announcement, before then we saw everyone parading like we just need a quarter point to come down and it's going to alleviate the market and things are gonna get better. Since then, and you can follow up with these numbers, I'm pretty sure on the sales side, from the actual real estate side, June and May has been like the slowest months of the year. Condos are sitting, they're not moving.
It's definitely been a very low sales to listing ratio. So
Right.
like, we're just seeing a lot of inventory and the sales aren't keeping up, the sales are down. And this was like the first time where when we looked at some of the numbers, like the prices are actually down.
Correct.
And it's, you've always seen, even last year when, it was pretty bad in terms of the, things weren't really moving at some parts of the year, you still saw like a 1% increase, 2% increase.
Correct.
Like just like very minimal year over year increases on price. This is the first time you're seeing like 2 to 8%, depending on the product and location.
Yeah.
You're actually seeing price drops.
Price drops.
This last month.
Right.
So
and that's post, right? That's post rate cut.
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so I don't think normalcy, I don't think we'll see it for, in my humble opinion, I don't think 1 or 2 rate cuts is going to make the difference.
No.
I don't think 1 or 2 rate cuts is enough where all of a sudden people are going to be able to start affording homes again and things like that. So my humble opinion, I would, if I'm wrong, that's better for everyone. Yeah. But my humble opinion, I'm thinking closer to end of 2025.
Yeah, that seems about right.
So that's what I'm thinking.
I think, even if you are wrong, like, I think every economist is 98% of the times wrong.
So yeah, no, exactly.
You're good,
right?
But no, I think you're right. My prediction as well is that I think prices need to come down.
For sure.
And I think that may continue to happen for a little while. And I think it's going to be a good opportunity for buyers to take advantage, people that are in a position to do something over the next year, to really take advantage of those opportunities if they can and if they're in a position to do so. But yeah, I feel like it's hard to say when activity will pick up, but I think as soon as prices drop, activity will pick up. Because there's people on the sidelines that, want to do something, they want to take advantage.
Most definitely.
And I think it's just a matter of people, like the reason we're seeing high listings, not enough sales, people are still looking at 2021,
Correct.
looking at those numbers. It's hard to accept the situation.
For sure.
But I think as people come down to reality and things start to stabilize, whether it's end of this year, early next year, I think we'll at least see some activity pick up, and then, we'll see where that takes us.
And just to jump in quickly, also get these renewals off the books as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we have, right? Between 2025 and 2026, we have well over 60% of everyone who's locked in on a 3 to 5 year term coming up for renewal, right? So I think that's going to be, once all those renewals process through and all that debt is transferred over from whatever they're at, 2%, 2.5%, up to the rate at that time, let's call it 4.5, 5. I think once that's done, we're on the tail end of that, then we're going to start to see some level of normalcy, because then you're going to be able to see, okay, who ends up selling because they can't afford their interest, they can't afford the mortgage no more, who keeps, right, their mortgage is able just to renew into that new rate and keep things going, right? Once that book is clear, then I think we're going to be on the better half of things. So let's call it the last half of the decade.
Yeah. And I think 2027 is going to be popping.
Yeah. Well,
if we're not building and if things stabilize and we start seeing some economic factors in the positive direction.
For sure.
There's no building happening,
None.
So if we continue with these immigration rates, and I think things are going to be very interesting, sort of 2027 to 2029, like in terms of the housing situation. But I know we have some big goals, and there's a lot of people that are talking about building, but I'm not seeing it. So we'll see what happens with kind of the overall housing demand and supply over the next few years. But quickly, if you can just really, really quickly,
for sure,
break down a mortgage file for me, like everything that goes into it, just as quickly as you.
Yeah, for sure. No,
French.
What?
In French.
Okay, no, you gotta take it easy. You gotta take it easy on that. But just okay, so very easy. Mortgage file comes in. Usually there's an intake call, and in that, within 5 or 10 minutes, the mortgage advisor, whoever you work with, should be able to break down what exact documents you need to make a purchase. I'm going to assume we're doing this on a purchase, not a refinance, right?
Sure.
Okay, you pre-approve the client, they send you the income documents, down payment, credit, and from there, the mortgage advisor will analyze that with their team, all right, and then spit out a top line pre-approval. At least you should have
What do you need for that whole file?
right. So income, down payment,
What do you need for the income?
right? So when I say income, it's understanding are they T4 versus self-employed,
Yeah.
right? Because those two files are underwritten differently.
Yeah.
All right. Figure out how you can squeeze out the most income out of that file. Is there child tax benefit? Is there other rental properties in place? Right. Figure out all their different income sources. All right. And get that hashed out ideally within the first couple of days of receiving those documents from the client.
Yeah.
All right. Now you have to understand how's their credit like. Right. Is it above 680? Is it below 600? All right. Because then that's going to decide whether you're going to be an A lender or a B lender. Right. Or alternative or A minus, I like to say, right? Why is their credit score the way it is? Is there a way to rehab that in the interim to potentially get them over to the A side? If not, maybe you just do a short-term alternative lending solution, and then when it renews, you can renew them with an A file, right? Down payment, where's that coming from? Is it from their own sources? Is it from a home equity line of credit from one of their other properties? Is it a gift from direct family, right?
Yeah.
You have to understand that ideally before you go ahead and make that purchase. Because if you're playing in larger markets like the GTA, unfortunately, there's not all files, even though we would advise them to, not all files have a condition of finance, right?
Yeah.
So you're locked in as soon as you put that deposit down and your deposit's at risk. And again, if you're in a larger market, chances are you're not going to get that deposit back, unfortunately.
Yeah. And what do you need? Do you need anything on the liability side?
Yeah, so that's credit, debt.
That goes over all
credit, debt, all that stuff,
Yeah.
right? To appropriately and accurately spit out a number and say, hey, Rob J, Charlie is pre-approved for this much. I wouldn't advise going a dollar over, let's call it 800,000. All right? You pre-approve them. The realtor then goes out, boom, gets them their house. All right?
What's the exact percentage of your income versus your liabilities that you can allocate to one?
Oh, very, very, very good question. So we follow a principle called PIF. That is principal and interest payment, all right? Property taxes, all right? And heating costs, all right? That's what we call your GDS, all right? Over your income, divided by your income. Whatever that is, that cannot surpass 39%. 39%. So that's just the housing costs.
Yep.
And then you have your total debt servicing ratio, right? Which is all of the housing costs that we just mentioned, plus all your personal debt, lines of credits, credit cards, car notes, student loans, etc. Any monthly payments or monthly liabilities you have to any outside credit facilities personally. All right. You add those together, over your income now, that cannot be over 44%. This is where Canadians are falling short.
That's it.
It's not the housing costs. It's not the GDS. It's not the 39%.
That 39 to 44%, that bucket is the most important bucket.
Yeah.
And that's where you know a lot of people mess up because they'll grow that bucket too big.
Too big.
And then it screws everything up.
Because then you have a $10,000 line of credit. You have a $15,000 student loan. Well, now you have a $30,000. You just finance a
$1,000 lease.
Now you have a $1,000 lease. And then now you're way over that 44%. Now, there are exceptions. Certain banks will give exceptions, right? 45, 46, depending on other extenuating factors like income, strength of the borrower.
How can you curate those exceptions?
The quality of the mortgage advisor that you're working with. So this is where I like to sink my teeth, and this is what I pride myself on, is the storytelling. Right? You know, understanding, okay, so-and-so is an engineer. All right, he's been in the industry for 10 plus years. All right, his income has increased year over year by 10, 15%. He's going to be a high income earner. His credit is strong. It's above 700. You know, highlighting certain things about the file, although some underwriters don't care and it won't work all the time, but you need to be able to explain the file and ask for those exceptions and know which banks to go to for certain files. Scotia, BMO are notorious for giving exceptions. That whoever's watching this, I just gave you the two biggest gems. Scotia Bank and BMO, they'll go up to 49.50 TDS. Unless credit score is strong and the story makes sense. Boom.
I got a question for you. Credit, income, and net worth.
Yes.
What's the most important one that you would advise people to really
focus on?
Just like if you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one?
Yeah.
Income.
Income.
All day, every day.
All day, every day.
It wouldn't even, you can't even.
No? And then what if you had to pick 2 out of the 3? If you could only have 2.
If I could only have 2? You're going to expose me here, man. If if I can only have two. See, net worth is a cheat code because net worth is a byproduct of income. Right?
Yeah, it could be, it could not be. Like some people just, have their assets growing and maybe don't produce any income.
But how do they acquire those assets?
Real estate.
Right, but net worth, if we're on the same page,
Yeah.
because net worth is the value of the assets minus any debts that asset has. That's your net worth,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I'll go income and net worth.
Yeah?
I'll go income and net worth.
So you can maneuver the landscape with those two.
Because only thing that credit naturally allows for you to get, and this is more of my business side coming out for me, I'll be honest with you. Credit ensures that you have the best interest rate on the market. Right? It's going to get you the best product on the market, the best interest rate, right? But
There's a lot of value to that.
there is a lot of value. My thing is, and this is gun to my head,
Yeah.
right? That's why you put me in a gun to my head situation. Only reason why I would say income and net worth is because I always think like an entrepreneur. I don't care about the interest rate too much. I'll be honest with you. If I know I'm making 50% on my money and the interest rate is 12%,
Yeah.
that's still very, very good net, right?
Yeah.
I want to. That's still
At the end of the day, if you have the net worth, you could produce a higher interest on your own money.
on my own money.
Then you don't even need the.
Correct.
You don't even need the.
So that is why that's how my.
You're
But
correct.
that's a biased way of thinking, though.
Yeah.
That is a biased way of thinking,
Yeah.
right? Just due to my own experiences and how I just view. I don't. If I know I'm making X amount of dollars on the money.
Yeah.
For me, it's not about. I'm trying to increase that net profit, right? So. If it makes sense, I'll pay 15% interest. I really don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter to me depending on how much I'm making,
Yeah.
right?
I know you work with a lot of entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
small business owners.
Yes.
You also do a lot of business loans. How are you helping those types of people? Because I know those files are a little bit more difficult.
For sure.
How are you helping them acquire properties and kind of get approved? What do you have kind of that's unique to what you're doing for those types of people?
Right. So you mentioned two things. Just when I just want to be able to separate it for the viewers, right? Are we talking about how those individuals are acquiring properties or getting business loans? Because those are two different.
Yeah, I would say how are you kind of holistically helping people that are entrepreneurs?
Buy properties.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, buy properties and help them maybe grow their business.
Okay.
And like, what? Tell me a little bit about both and what you're seeing people kind of really have success with in terms of those two options.
Got it. Fair enough. So here's a prototypical case I get quite often. Someone who is T4'd, let's say call it. I'll speak of a life case. Someone who was T4'd working as an industrial plumber for an industrial plumbing company. All right. He's a T4. He then became self-employed. All right. He was self-employed for about 2 years, which is still very early, but he was making good money. Yeah. But he was very adamant on growing his business. Yeah. Growing his business, all right? Now, unfortunately, Canada, we're not the most tax-friendly country in the world, right? So you get into a place where you either show enough income to qualify for the home, all right, to get in with a Scotia, a BMO, a TD, or something like that, and get the best interest rate on the market, all right? But that's going to kill the amount of money that you're able to reinvest back in the business because you're going to be taxed. In this case, for him, he would have been taxed well over 50%, right? That's one route. Today, on the 5-year fixed, call it, you'll probably get something around 4.99 on the 5-year fixed, right? Or if you're okay paying a 1% premium on the interest rate, barring that your credit is strong, you can go to an alternative lender. The interest rate is slightly higher.
A-?
Yeah, A-. I
like that.
Right? Where that rate's now 5.99. But they don't look at your NOAs. They qualify you off of stated income. So all
They're
they're
doing a lot of A-?
yes, a lot of A-.
Are you an A- specialist?
Something of the sort. I haven't called myself an A- specialist, but
I like that brand though.
what? A-
that
specialist?
brand, yeah.
Well, now that you say it, it has a little bit of a ring to it.
About it.
Right?
I never heard of it. I never heard a position like that, and I like it because I think I really like just seeing some files and my clients. It's like I think there's a huge opportunity there because that's like it's
because
difficult with the banks and if there's some flexibility, but you don't want to put them in a private or
correct.
Go all the way to
because and this is where just the education comes. We just actually break down the numbers. All right, to qualify for this house, you need to at least show a minimum on your NOAs 150K, right? But then you're gonna be taxed at the highest tax bracket, right? So your tax liability there is going to be quite aggressive, right? Or you show whatever you want on your NOAs. I don't care. I'm not looking at your NOAs. Call it, you shouldn't do this, but call it, you see all the time, we'll just be honest,
Yeah.
20,000, right?
Yeah.
That's not going to qualify you for anything, right? But I can still get you the house that you want as long as your bank statements are strong. Because what I'm going to look at, the actual bank deposits from your corporate account and annualize that over the year.
Yeah.
So as long as your deposits show whatever we need to qualify for your house. So let's say your bank deposits are 250 minus your business expenses, call it 50 grand. Now I can use $200,000 on your application rather than trying to go to Scotia or TD, right, for 150, but then you're going to be taxed quite aggressively.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and we look at the numbers like that, it doesn't make sense because A, they're paying little to nothing in taxes, all right? The interest rate is only 1% higher. Why not? And it allows them now full flexibility to reinvest back in that company and allow them to grow.
Yeah.
Now, the good thing is, I say, that's because you're young in your career and you're still building your business, right? We'll do a 1-year term, a 2-year term, and then we can look to renew you with an A-lending institution once you feel like you've pumped all the money you've needed to into your business, right? And then you're scaling back now because you already have your fixed cost. So that is a breakdown I like to do because it shows like, hey, do you know what? 1% higher in interest rate doesn't actually make a difference, and I'm paying more in taxes than I would be by just eating this increase in the interest rate.
They're gonna make a lot more in the business than 1%.
Correct.
For those kind of clients that are more business oriented, because you see a lot of files and probably helping them make different moves, like, are you seeing more people really be successful with investing in their business or investing in real estate?
Oh man, there's I personally think I see more people winning by investing in their business, right?
Really?
Yes. I again,
More people in terms of like the percentage of people that are successful in that route?
correct. If I look at a lot of the uber wealthy people, the top 1%, if you call it, right? Very few of them got, let's say, rich from just investing in property. They got wealthy, but what you found is their business in creating a strong income stream, right, was first, and then they diversified that money into real estate because real estate is the best way to preserve your wealth and grow it, right? But in order to make money, I don't think real estate is the way to go. Personally, right? When I look at all the richest families in Canada, right? They operate a business, they scale that up to 7 figures, 8 figures, etc. And then they take the profits of that business and they invest in real estate as a way to pass down wealth from generation to generation and a way to grow their wealth passively through equity.
Preservance is the word.
Correct.
That makes sense, just to preserve that wealth.
Yes.
And I feel like it's just very low risk,
Correct.
right? As opposed to going, all in on the business sometimes. Are you seeing a lot of opportunities with buying businesses?
Oh, tons.
That's the big opportunity, I think.
Tons. I think right now, just demographically, the way Canada is structured right now, the baby boomers are, I think, around sub 5 years from pretty much retirement age. And they have
a lot of good businesses.
They hold around 95% of all small businesses in Canada. So we're seeing a massive...
And they're not optimized, and they probably need some marketing help, and they can, grow with a little bit of support.
Correct. And they have
an exit.
And they have no succession plan in place. Unfortunately, their kids aren't interested in taking on the family business. So what other options do they have? They either run it to the ground where they can't run it. When I say run it to the ground, not run it in terms of where they close the doors. I'm saying they're running it until they want to retire and I absolutely can't do it, and they just close up shop and let it go. Or they sell it at an extreme discount, right? They would love for a young guy like yourself or myself to come in and be like, hey, I'm interested in buying this business. Let's put in a succession plan, right? Let me work under you for 4 or 5 years and create an exit strategy, right? That way you keep the brand, you keep the marketability and your clients and things like that happy, and we'll do a slow changeover from 3 to 5 years. And then I take over and maybe you take some sort of revenue or dividends or something, right?
I was going to ask you this at the end, but what's the play? What you just said kind of leads to a huge opportunity. Do you think that's something that you see yourself maybe dabbling in the future in terms of...
1,000%. I would love an opportunity. As I keep going out the money, man, right now we're simply focused on servicing and brokering business loan transactions, right? Ideally, 5-year plan. We'd love to open up an advisory piece or an advisory arm to the business where, hey, do you know what? We like this business. you guys need capital, you guys need help in the operations, almost acting as a consulting role,
Yeah.
and buy, you know,
I think it's a huge opportunity.
some
I think
equity.
over the next, even two to 5 years, I think even now, like I think a lot of people are looking to exit.
Yep.
And I think there's a huge opportunity there to really look at that space and see if there's some good acquisitions. 'Cause that's what I love, man. I love building businesses. I love, just the systems, the operations, the marketing.
Yep.
And I feel like there's so much inefficiencies. There's so much, growth that's, easily, some of these companies can easily execute. And, they have the databases, they have the clientele, they have the fundamentals that are the most important.
For sure.
But there's just so much opportunity there, I think. And yeah, I think that's, I didn't think about that before in terms of coming into this, but just kind of you talking about it really, I think that's a big opportunity.
I think it's a massive opportunity, right? And again, someone needs to fill these businesses.
Yeah.
Right?
I know you come across a lot of files,
Yeah.
different files, different, commercial deals, land deals, development deals, obviously single family. What would you say is the biggest opportunity right now that you're seeing? Like, obviously you get that, glance at different people doing different moves. What do you think is like the biggest opportunity right now that you can kind of see from start to finish, people executing on from a real estate investment perspective, let's say?
Right now, a lot of multi-unit res is coming on my plate right now.
Yeah.
Reason being is because just the financing on it is so advantageous because the Canadian government still needs to solve for affordable housing, which is obviously a massive issue.
Yeah.
So they're incentivizing great financing on multi-unit residential, right?
So you're seeing a lot of people have a lot of success on the multifamily side from an acquisition perspective, from an improvement perspective.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Reason why, because the cost of money is so cheap. That's why.
On those.
On those,
specific-
right? So like it's not uncommon to see anything above 6 units, multi-unit res, so residential units, you can easily lock in a rate of 4.5%, which is lower than residential rates now. So because the price of money is so cheap, it allows you to cash flow
Yeah.
a lot easier, right? And thus holding. Now, but the issue on that again, it goes back to the long-term tenant board, right? Now the only difference is more individuals be like, well, if I own a 20-unit apartment building, if I have tenant issues with a handful of units, I'm still okay because I have still another 15 units paying me rent on time, etc. In comparison to smaller multifamily where it's like a duplex or a triplex,
like
or
one or two people, and then
you're done.
Yeah.
You're in the hole, right?
Okay, so on the commercial side, can you help me break down a deal in its entirety from start to finish, specifically on the multifamily side? Like, how are you finding a lot of investors acquiring those buildings? How are they getting the financing initially, and then furthermore in terms of what happens after they maybe improve it?
For sure. No, I'm doing a deal right now that just got funded, so I just fresh through this process. So essentially usually when it comes, someone who's buying multifamily usually has some sort of experience already. Because they understand you're not just going out and buying a 6-unit building, right? You're not just going out and buying a 10-unit building with at least somewhat of experience of real estate, owning a primary home, and maybe a few smaller rentals, right? So the quality of the investor, let's just be honest, is usually a lot greater. It's not a first-time investor.
Is that important in the financing?
1,000%, because CMHC wants to know that whatever you're doing to the project, you have the ability, you have the experience, back to that storytelling, to actually handle that type of project, right? Because now the mortgage amounts are millions of dollars. That's what you're asking for, right? They want to know that they're giving that money to an individual who has experience in handling these type of projects from start to finish. So,
and on those deals, what specifically do you need if you're looking to execute on those deals as an investor, or is it maybe a couple of JV partners?
right? So like I said, the experience is very open-ended, right? They just don't want to see simply someone who, I don't know, off the street more or less, like, right? They want to see, okay, he has a little bit of net worth, which is extremely important.
Okay.
He owns a few properties that aren't over leveraged, all right? Maybe he has a few smaller multis and he wants to grow now into a larger commercial space. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? It's clear, it's direct, it makes sense, right? Now, most of the multis that you're seeing right now on the market, very few of them are turnkey. And the ones that are, and they're going direct to CMHC, at least in Ontario, expensive, right? So where you're gonna have the most success in some sort of value add play, right? There's that word play again. So you're buying usually a multi that is under market in terms of the rents aren't at market rent. So you need to do some sort of facelift and bring the income up, increasing that net operating income, all right, in order to get it over to CMHC.
But tell me about the financing
Yeah.
aspect that goes in.
No, and that's what-
strictly the financing.
Yeah.
What do I need to acquire it?
For sure.
And then how does that process look like from a financing perspective?
And yeah, so I'm just laying down the foundation right now. We're getting into that right now. So now, in terms of the financing, because unfortunately of the delay at CMHC, right, 3 to 4 months, maybe even 6 months. Right now, they're extremely backlogged. All right. No seller is going to say, oh yeah, a 6-month close or a 4-month close. If you can negotiate that, great. But if not, right, and they say, hey, I need a 60-day close, right, chances are you're not going to be able to get CMHC financing off the rip. You need some sort of bridge opportunity.
Would you explore a CMHC loan if the property needs some improvements?
Correct. So the way we underwrite the deals is we underwrite the deals for a CMHC exit, meaning this. There's a few lenders on the market, all right, that will give you a bridge loan, all right, on a multi-unit, all right, even though it doesn't debt service. So even though, let's say, the debt servicing is at 0.75, right, so less than 1. All right, they'll still give you the bridge loan, knowing that up front you are going to exit with CMHC. Simply, what we need to be able to articulate is what are you going to do to increase the net operating income in order to get it to CMHC. So, cash or keys. Do you need to remove, 2 units and get them to market rents? And once you remove 2 units by, let's say, bring them up by $400 or $500, the net operating income, the DSR, is going to be at a point where it'll be at 1.31, which is what CMHC's recommendation is, right? That's going to take you 1 year to do, let's call it, right? So they'll give you a 1-year term, interest only. Usually the rates will be around prime plus 2, prime plus 3, in that ballpark, all right? Completely open. That way, whenever CMHC is going to, whenever you've done those cash for keys, or if you increase the net operating income, at the same time, you can then apply for CMHC, and then they're going to refinance you out of that, refinance you out of that loan at the new appraised value.
What are you doing in the conditional period with that bridge loan and CMHC
Perfect.
to get
Perfect.
get some real,
Yeah, for sure. So
confidence in the deal?
No, most definitely. So we're getting a CMHC LOI with the LOI of the bridge loan at the same time.
Prior to going firm.
Prior to going firm. You got it, right? Because we need to underwrite it. The bridge loan is only going to be approved based off a CMHC exit. So they're only going to give you that bridge loan knowing that in confidence that CMHC will pay us out.
Yeah.
Or else we're not going to
And that's the key to getting.
And that's the key, right? So that means you're understanding what renovations need to be done, if any need to be done, right? What is the current DSR?
Yeah.
And what do we need to get it to in order to exit CMHC? So that means how many units do we need to increase rent on in order to get it to CMHC? Once you figure out that piece right there, all right, everything else is easy, because then it's just ordering appraisals, maybe an environmental if one needs to.
Tell me about down payments, interest rate on the bridge, and then how things look on the CMHC side in terms of how the appraisal might be coming out at that point, and what the exit looks like. Just kind of
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. So down payment on the bridge, the most common bridge is 25% down. Okay. So 75% loan to value.
On the purchase.
On the purchase, obviously it's going to be based off the appraisal at the same time. So let's just call it, in this case, appraisal and purchase falls in line the same, right? You're doing 75% loan to value, so you're putting 25% down. All right. You get the approval for the bridge and CMHC. All right. All right. You're doing the cash for keys. You're increasing the NOI. The DSR is now where it's at. CMHC now is going to come and refinance you, but you have 2 options. You can do CMHC conventional or CMHC MLI.
The construction piece or the investment piece on that improvement, is that usually that the buyer needs to front that?
So depending on what lending institution, some lending institutions will potentially finance some of the rentals anywhere between 65 to 75%
so that bridge loan might include 65 to 70% of construction
of the rentals, correct?
Yeah, and then what rate is that bridge loan usually looking at these days?
The bridge loan right now, you're looking at the most aggressive one is prime plus 2.
Okay.
You'll get around.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So call it prime plus 2. So prime right now is at 6.95. So you're looking anywhere between, I would say, as low as 7.5 to as high as like 9.99, in that ballpark. Interest only, completely open.
Yeah. Okay. And then how much value add are you seeing being done in that process as you get to sort of the CMHC stage?
Right.
What are the appraisals kind of like?
Yeah, in my personal experience,
Yeah.
the majority, I've only, on the CMHC side, the majority of my deals were not really huge rental jobs. They were relatively turnkey.
Yeah.
All they needed was the exits of a few units
Yeah.
to bring them to market rents, right?
Got it.
Because again, capital, right? You need capital to do some rental jobs and things like that, right? It's a little more capital intensive up front. You're getting the money back on the back end,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of the deals that I've done have been mainly just tenant turnovers,
Yeah.
gradual tenant turnovers over the year with a CMHC exit,
Got
all
it.
right? Now on the CMHC side, all right, now obviously it's commercial. So now the appraisal is also based off of the income that the property is generating,
Yeah.
right? So CMHC is going to refinance you at whether it's conventional or MLI. So conventional, you get the 40-year amortization at 85% loan to value. Still needs to debt service 1.3 though, right? That's still, you still need to be able to debt service that, but obviously it's easier because you're increasing the amortization to 40 years. So you're stretching that
Yeah.
principal and interest payment out by an additional, call it 15 years, right? 10 to 15 years, excuse me.
What's the difference between that and the MLI?
The MLI now it's done on a point system, all right? So the MLI Select, you're either hitting points on affordability or energy efficiency, which are the two biggest things, and then accessibility as well, right? Now, based off the point system, all right, now you can get all the way up to 95% loan to value. So you're left with only 5% skin in the game at a 50-year amortization. And then the rates are also a little bit more aggressive on the MLI program as well.
What's like the rates on the MLI that you're seeing?
4.5.
4.5.
Locked that in for 10 years. Yeah. So that's lower than what the majority of people have renewing right now on the residential.
That's another play.
It's another play.
It's another play, man. That's a few
Right.
plays.
So just imagine that equity takeout now,
Yeah.
right? So you started off at 75% loan to value. You do the tenant turnovers, excuse me, or whatever renovations that you do. But then you're able to now exit at 85 to 95% loan to value. You're pretty much pulling all that capital back out of the project, and then you can reallocate that to future projects.
That's it. Okay. Awesome. That's great. Great information. I know you've been really zoned in on your business in the last year. Kind of seen, a lot of growth and a lot of focus. What do you think?
Thank you, man.
No, for sure, man. I see it. I really appreciate it. If there was one thing you could, say that you've done differently or that you've really tried to do that has kind of helped with that growth, what would that be?
One thing,
Yeah.
I think one thing above all is quality of COI in relationships.
Yeah.
So center of influence in relationships.
Yeah.
This year, beginning of the year, I told myself, there's one thing I want to do. I want to make sure that I meet at least one or two people, new quality COIs every month, and nurturing those relationships.
Yeah.
So pretty much how I met you, right? Because that has allowed me to get into rooms and has given me opportunities, as you know now, to really help me expand my business to the next level.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the biggest difference maker. A lot of individuals, or still even a lot of business owners, they don't want to go out, they don't want to shake hands because babies. I get it because you're tired, you worked in your business for 10 hours. You don't know who you're going to meet at this networking event or this mix and mingle. So you just decide you don't go, right?
Yeah.
But you never know that you go. It can just be one person who introduces you to one person who introduces you to the next person, then can
One Nate.
can
could change
right?
the game.
Or listen, believe it or not, a lot of things have changed since that EXP boat cruise.
That's it.
Kingston, right?
That's it, man.
I had no being there. Realistically, I had no reason being there.
Yeah.
I was going there to support my friend Joshua Perry, who's now an agent with EXP. What you guys got going on is really inundated with himself within the team, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know nobody. Wasn't really I'm not an EXP agent myself. I'm not a realtor, right? And that was a realtor-focused networking event, right? In terms of how to grow your business and teams and stuff like that. But Josh's like, hey, just come along with the ride. I would love for you to be there.
That's it.
You never know who you can network with. And I was humming and eyeing, and you know what? Now, looking back on it, it was the best idea I could have met. I met about 3 or 4 people, including yourself, that I feel like I've really honed in and locked in a relationship with.
Yeah.
Not just in business, but even outside the world, even going playing basketball and whatnot.
That's it.
And now, touch wood. I don't know if I can say it, but now, I'm going to be working very, very closely with you guys at EXP and being a little bit more part of that global brand that you guys are growing out here in Mississauga, right? And I'm actually part of the team, which is something I'm really, really happy about. But like I said, just going out and forcing yourself to go out to these events, because again, you never know who you can meet.
Events are big, man. I'm really excited. I know, obviously you're running some events with Josh and there's other events that are going on. Like I think events and connection and networking is a big part of the game. And I'm just looking forward and excited to have some fun with that.
Yeah, no, me too. Really, and it's the only way you realize collaboration at the top. Collaboration is the only way to get to the top.
Yeah, collaboration is at the top.
Correct.
That's what I realized too. It's like collaboration only happens at the top.
Right.
It's only when you're kind of, when you're sort of at the bottom, you think that you got to grind it through and do it on your own. It's like you realize eventually that, the collaboration happens at the top.
Right. Because in order to gain market share the quickest, right, or a large amount of market share, right, it's not always launching new products and grinding it out and going vertical all the time, right? Sometimes your best move is actually collaborating with someone who already has a dominant place in that market share and just collaborating. Because now your influence went from what you're doing really well to now collaborating with someone else, and now you have a larger piece of that pie.
Yeah.
And all of the pain points, all of the skill sets, all of the learn that this individual had to do to get there, you now get to do that cost-free. Well, maybe not cost-free if you're buying into it, but you now get access to that right away.
Yeah.
That person, he or she has the experience, right? And that's what I'm realizing now,
Yeah.
right? But yeah.
There's some big plays that are available when you collaborate.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so, St. Catharines, Brock, you're
The best.
You're playing ball. Eventually, you're at Orange Theory, running the show there. Orange Theory is great, by the way. I lost a few pounds there a few years ago.
Come on now.
And it was a good experience. But now you've kind of gone through investing. You've gone through, seeing a lot of finances. If you were to, talk to Charles when he was 18 and say one thing to him, kind of where he was at with everything you know now, what would that be?
Skills pay the bills.
Yeah.
Learning a skill set and learning how to monetize that skill set is the best thing you can do in your early teens.
Yeah.
Whatever that be, whatever industry, whether it be a trade, whether it be just communication, right? Public speaking, whatever, right? If you have a skill set that you're naturally talented at and you're good at, right? Investing in yourself, figuring out how you can monetize this is the best thing you can do. Whether you like it or not, I should say it doesn't matter, because you can use those funds there to actually fund things that you like, whether it's passion projects or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
And
Figure out your superpower, what you're kind of good at, and build on it.
correct, and build on it. Figure out how you can monetize that, figure out how you can scale that.
Yeah.
Because you're doing two things. You're gonna help more people,
Yeah.
right? By providing them an excellent service
Yeah.
that other people will not be able to provide, and help them out.
Yeah.
Right? So, and on top of that, you're going to be able to grow a business that's going to be able to refeed you and your spirit and in your emotional bandwidth by being able to take care of your loved ones and doing the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
With that.
I feel like no matter what it is, because I had, I was always very entrepreneurial and had a bunch of businesses. I launched my first little business online when I was like 15, 16.
Look at
to
that.
make some money online. And I'm just really passionate about that. But I think no matter what it is, it could be mowing lawns, it could be, cleaning windows, it could be, helping people lose weight, whatever it is, like having a business, just that acumen you learned at Orange Theory of like just how to get memberships, how to manage people, like no matter what it is, like I think the quicker people can, have a side hustle, have a little business on the side and just grow it and learn communication, learn, how a business works. No matter what it is, it doesn't have to be anything glorious or fancy. Just, get through that process because it's going to definitely help you. So I agree with that. Okay, man. What's next for you? What's the next year look like? What's the focus? We got a lot of plays here, man. We talked about collaboration. We talked about, investing in businesses that are going to be looking to exit in the next little while. We talked about some commercial multifamily plays.
Yep.
What's the play for you?
Yeah, a good question. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but if I'm able to really focus on is the money man, right? Really trying to make that a household name in the GTA and my roots in Niagara, spreading that into the EXP Port Credit Office as well. Not sure when this is coming out, but I'm sure people are going to know sooner or later. Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to obviously already lock that in, right? So really provide value to the agents and the realtors there, right? And honestly, I'm falling in love and I'm realizing I'm building a business. right? So really ironing out all the details of what it means to run and operate and switching from like an executive or a manager to a CEO, right? So I focus on the networking, I focus on the nurturing relationships, which I'm still gonna do, but it's now has got me to a place where, okay, I'm in front of a lot of people. I'm in the XP office, right? I'm on certain boards and memberships in Niagara as well, where people are coming to me for expert advice, right? Now it's like, okay, how do I now sustain this level of growth? Go back to the bones. Do I have the right support team in place, right? And I can honestly say that's something I have to work on. I have to switch my mindset and my pivot. Okay, perfect. I need to get an admin. I need to make sure the support team's in place because what you cannot have happen is not being able to sustain your level of customer service and integrity in the market and getting things done. Because my word is bond and my word means a lot to me. So if you're telling someone, you're giving them deadlines and due dates, you're getting it done, you have to get those things done, right? And that takes now a well-oiled machine and support team in order to sustain that. So right now, expansion mode, right? And just ironing out any kinks in the support team that we have right now. Whatever that takes, get that, because this ship is going to the top. You know what I mean? We're not stopping, right? So right now, as much as I would love to say like, oh, the 10-year plan is to start investing in businesses, in 5 years we're going to open up an advisory arm, that's all good and dandy, but right now it's never going to get there if it's not operating like a well-oiled machine. So for now to the remainder of the year, that's really what I'm focusing on. And then the relationships that I've been dedicated to nurturing over the last year and a half, right? Really focusing on them and how we can serve them. How can we serve you guys to help grow your brand, grow that EXP global brand, right? What can we do from a lending side? Because I just feel like there's still a detachment, right, from mortgage brokers and realtors where I don't want to be a transactional broker, right? I don't want you just to call me when you get a file done. Still call me when you get a file done. Let's focus how we can build a business. Right.
I want to focus on that. I like that, man. And I'm here to support you in any way I can. And as you grow, I'd love to see, really innovate a little bit and really make that process. I always found that process is a little disconnected. It's never perfect. It's probably never going to be because there's just so many moving pieces.
For sure.
The more we can streamline and improve it and kind of work towards that and just have that same goal, I think will lead to some good things and some good deals.
Most definitely.
So last question, man. What could you say about rolling with a company that's got that gradient vibe?
And do you know what? I go off of energy. I'm a big energy person, right? And I like I like companies and people who are brash and say what they want and are forward thinkers and are movers and shakers, because you want to be a part of that environment, right? Because you want to add and create and collaborate with them even more and throw ideas out. Because like I said, like I always like to say, like, I'm a dog. You know what I mean? When I see something, my eyes on the prize, I'm going to get it. But I want to do it with a group of people because it's just that much more fun. So moving with a company with a gradient vibe,
bro, let's make some waves, bro.
If it's not that, I think you're missing out.
That's it, man. Let's make some waves, bro. Appreciate you coming through, man.
Thank you, boss, man.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
and this
you.
podcast, man. Good stuff, man.
There it is.